I used to think loyalty was something sacred, an eternal fire you could feed endlessly with your time, your effort, even your body, and it would still burn bright enough to guide those you loved. But by 27, I learned something brutal. Loyalty, when unreciprocated, doesn't warm you. It burns you hollow. My name's James Anderson, and this is how I disappeared while standing right in front of the people I gave everything to. At 19, I became the backbone of a family that was already falling apart. By day, I worked in a warehouse, skin splitting on my hands from dragging pallets. By night, I built websites, chasing contract jobs through red eyes and black coffee. I paid the bills, every one of them. The mortgage? Me. The gas? Covered. When Caleb needed textbooks for college, or my mom, Evelyn, faced a sudden medical expense, I was the lifeline. I wore worn-out boots through 3 winters so my brother could have fresh sneakers. Skipped meals so my dad, Vincent, could keep fuel in his car. I was the eldest, the one who never got to fall apart. When Dad's construction business crumbled, so did he, replacing his voice with bourbon and long stares at the wall. Mom stopped smiling, always scanning the room like the next disaster was already here. Caleb, 20, was lost in campus chaos, too far gone in his own dreams. And my sister Leia, 16, absorbed in phone screens and filters, lived like reality didn't concern her. But I loved them, even when I was bleeding financially. Even when I lived on instant noodles and caffeine pills to power through another shift. I believed that if I kept holding everything up, they'd finally see me. They didn't. It all snapped on a bone-cold February evening. I was in the garage, oil on my skin, trying to patch Mom's busted radiator. I just cleared another one of Dad's debts. $5,000 scraped together from extra shifts and sleepless nights. The fatigue wasn't just in my limbs anymore. It sat in my chest, a crushing ache that didn't leave. I walked into the den where Dad was glued to a muted screen and said, "We need to talk about the bills. I can't do this alone anymore." He looked up, sharp and empty. "You're eating our food, sleeping in our house, and now you're whining?" It took me a second to breathe. I said, "I paid for food, the house, your car, everything." He laughed, shards of ice and contempt. "You're not a savior, James. You're just a freeloader playing hero. You don't like it? Get out." Mom stood in the doorway, frozen, towel in hand. Leia looked up, then turned away. Caleb didn't even flinch, just sipped his beer. I waited for someone to speak, to acknowledge I was the reason the lights were still on. Nothing, just silence, and the dull hum of a television no one was watching. That night, I packed a bag, some jeans, a charger, my laptop. I left without goodbye. Moved in with a co-worker who had a spare room. I canceled everything. Mortgage, utilities, Leia's streaming subscriptions. No more wires draining my account. 3 weeks later, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Mom's voice trembled through voicemails. "James, the heat's off." Caleb, "Bro, why's the Wi-Fi dead?" Leia, "Where are you?" I can't use my data. Every message pierced a little, but I stayed quiet. I'd spent nearly a decade putting their needs before my pain. That moment in the den had torn open something I'd been patching over for years. I let the silence speak for me. 2 months in, Leia called from a number I didn't recognize. "You're heartless," she said. "Dad's falling apart, and you're acting like we owe you something." I almost laughed. "Owe me? I bought your laptop, paid your phone bill. I built your life. You all watched me unravel and said nothing." She hung up. That night, I typed a letter I never sent. "You call me a burden, Dad, but I was the one holding you up. Mom, you let me fade away and called it love. I wasn't your son. I was your solution." Eventually, I rented a small loft, got a stable job in tech, ate food that didn't come out of cans. 4 months later, an email arrived from Dad. Subject, urgent. Foreclosure notice. Please help. One last time, asterisk, asterisk. No apology, just desperation. I didn't reply. A few days after, a package showed up at my workplace. They'd found me. Inside was a copy of Dad's revised will, dated 2 years earlier. My name wasn't there. Not even a mention. Unstable, it read, while I was paying their bills. Soon after, I got a message from Nate, a high school friend. That house your parents live in? My dad's company bought the mortgage. They're prepping it for resale unless someone intervenes. I froze. I had the money, the credit, the silence. So I did what they never expected. I bought it through a private LLC. No name, no connection, just clean, silent power. The day the sale closed, Evelyn left a voicemail. Her voice cracked like frost under boots. They sold the house, James. We have nowhere to go. I didn't call. Instead, I had an official letter delivered. 90 days to start paying rent at market rate or vacate. They showed up at my door a week later. Vincent didn't speak. Jaw clenched like he was still the man who called me useless. Evelyn looked tired, her voice a whisper. We're still family. I stood in the doorway, calm. Family? You cut me out of your will while I was keeping you all afloat. I gave you 9 years. What did I get back? Leia's mouth opened, but no words came. Caleb wouldn't meet my eyes. Then Vincent finally spoke. You owe us. We're blood. I pulled out the keys. Let them hang in the air. No, you owe me. Pay rent. Or leave. They didn't stay. Last I heard, they moved in with a cousin who always said I'd end up homeless. Irony writes good poetry. I kept the house. Renovated it. Half is now a wood shop where I build things with my hands and no one's permission, where I breathe without debt or guilt. I no longer carry anyone else's weight. Loyalty isn't an anchor. It's a decision, and I finally chose myself. If you've ever felt invisible while holding up the world, you're not alone. Tell your story. Say their names. And if you're still carrying them, ask yourself why. There's freedom in letting go.